Chapter 2539 The Mission 1. Missions like these are our best chance to earn points. Miss Feng Wu, can I team up with you? Ziling asked excitedly. Before, she would have stayed far away from Feng Wu, but things were different now. She had seen Feng Wu's true power. She had kicked Yi Han away so easily, and Yi Han was from Class B. How terrifying would her real power be? And Ziling knew that she could use that sort of help. Follow Feng Wu and she would win. Feng Wu asked, earn points? Ziling's eyes sparkled. She said, the 1,500 students of Class E will be divided into 5-member teams. That's 300 teams in total. The teams will be ranked by the points they get, and members of the top team will each earn 100 extra points. The best member of that team will get another 100 points. The second best team will get 80 points. The third one will get 60 points. The fourth to the 100th will get 40 points. The 100th to the 200th, 20 points. The last 100 teams won't receive any points. Absent students, students who ask for help, and those who take leave will have their points deducted. How many points do you have now? Ziling asked. Chowga said, 10. Ziling's eyes widened. How is that possible? We each have 100 points to start with, don't? Chowga said, yes, but this room costs 90 points a month. Ziling stared at her. The look gave Chowga the creeps. What? Ziling asked, why did you pay the rent for the whole month when you can pay by the week? Some students even pay every 5 or 3 days. How are you going to pay for your meals now? Chowga was shocked. The moderator had lied to them. Ziling said, apart from accommodation, taking classes will cost you points as well. Everyone has to save up, or they won't be able to last for long in this place. Chowga asked, do I have to pay to go to classes? Ziling said, of course. As long as you can afford it, you can go to whichever class you want. Duan Chowga stared in shocked silence. Ziling said, a big event like this doesn't happen every day, so we have to cherish this opportunity. Individual tasks are much more time-consuming. If you only have 10 points, you have to work hard this time. Otherwise, you won't be able to attend any class. Feng Wu glanced at the moderator on their way out. The woman raised her chin in an arrogant manner. Chapter 2540 The Mission 2. Just then they saw someone coming there. The person came from the villa section. It was none other than Zhou Qingwan herself. The moderator beamed at Zhou Qingwan when she saw her. Miss Qingwan. She greeted the girl from afar and bowed. Zhou Qingwan didn't even glance at the woman as she walked past her. The woman only raised her head after Zhou Qingwan was a few hundred meters away. She said, she's so young but so talented. And she's the crown prince's fiancée as well. Her future is so promising. She then sneered at Feng Wu and Chowga. Feng Wu couldn't be bothered to respond. Fearing that Feng Wu would be angry, Ziling dragged her and Chowga away. After a few hundred meters, Chowga threw off her hand and asked, why did we run? Ziling whispered, you don't want to cross that woman. Chowga asked, why should I be afraid of her? Ziling said, because her husband is one of the assistant tutors of Class E. Each class was led by a chief tutor and 5 assistant tutors. Chowga said, even the chief tutor can't scare me. Ziling rolled her eyes at Chowga. All tutors are capable cultivators, even the ones of Class E. They're as good as Class A graduates, if not better. You were crushed by Yi Han, and you'll surely be crushed by any of the tutors. Don't do anything impulsive, okay? Chowga only smirked. Since Feng Wu had defeated Yi Han, Ziling felt that she was good enough to be a Class B student. Yi Han was one of the weaker students, however, so Ziling believed that Feng Wu should only be above average in Class B. But that was impressive enough. It would make her invincible in Class E. Soon, they arrived at the designated location. Almost all the students had arrived, and they had picked their teammates. Someone called Ziling's name. Ziling, join us. We have 1 spot left. A teenager named Lu Xiao waved at her. Next to him was a girl named Zhenya, who frowned at the suggestion. Ziling glanced at Zhenya and shook her head. That's all right. I have a team already. Zhenya took Lu Xiao's arm affectionately. Lu Xiao, she has her own team. Let's not trouble her. Lu Xiao frowned when he saw Feng Wu. It was obvious that Ziling's teammate was the new student who had offended Chief Qingluan. Ziling, why are you with them? You'll be a bottom team. Lu Xiao tried to pull Ziling away. Zhenya gave Ziling a warning look. Ziling pretended not to notice it. She said grumpily, "It's my choice. Go back to your team." She then dragged Feng Wu and Chaoge in the other direction. Team up with Feng Wu and you'll lose. Lu Xiao shouted after Ziling. Ziling thought, you have no idea how good Feng Wu is. Because of what Lu Xiao said, everyone looked in their direction. It's Feng Wu. Everyone had almost forgotten about the once genius girl, but Zhuo Qingluan had jogged their memories. Chapter 2541 The Mission, 3. Since she had been targeted by Zhuo Qingluan, Feng Wu would have a very difficult time here in War Academy. Chaoge asked curiously, what's their problem? Why do I feel like that girl doesn't like you? Ziling said, just ignore them. Chaoge and Feng Wu exchanged looks and decided that there had to be a story behind it. By then, they only had 3 minutes left. If no one else joined them, they would only have 3 people in their team. With 3 team members only, they were bound to become the team with the lowest points. At least, that was what Zhenya believed. Who do we have here? What? Can't you find any teammates? Mu Qianqian asked in a taunting voice. Sun Jingyu was by her side. Feng Wu glanced at her and ignored the question. Mu Qianqian felt as if she had just been slapped. Feng Wu, she bellowed. Chaoge glared at her. Stop shouting at us. Who the hell do you think you are? Sun Jingyu cut them off. Be quiet. Do you want to do this or not? The 5 of us will form a team. That's it. Chaoge asked, what if I say no? Sun Jingyu was very persistent. You're new students here, and you don't know the rules. You're so weak, and we're going to fight white and lion elephants this time. If you're killed, it's my points that will be deducted, so shut up. Duan Chaoge stared in shocked silence. She had never lost a quarrel until now. She wanted to retort, but Sun Jingyu had the moral high ground. Mu Qianqian smirked. We're doing you a favor, okay? Don't be ridiculous. Chaoge said, we don't need your help. Mu Qianqian said, the class president can decide which students go to which teams. Unless you're not a student of Class E, you have to follow her orders. Guys, am I right? The students answered in unison, yes. Chaoge was speechless. Feng Wu patted her shoulder. It's all right. She didn't care who she teamed up with. But it was very unlike Sun Jingyu to be so helpful toward some new students. Lu Xiao said enviously, with Jingyu's help, that team may actually get quite a few points. Zhenya smirked. Jingyu is good, but those 3 are all weaklings. Do you think Jingyu alone can change anything? That team is doomed. The other students were all amazed by how generous their class president was. Chaoge was mad. Feng Wu was too good to take part in such an event. That class president was a hypocrite who wanted to steal the spotlight. Every team leader received a number. Because Sun Jingyu was the class president, her team always got number 1. And Sun Jingyu had always been the most outstanding team player in Class C. Chapter 2542 The Mission, 4. Everyone looked enviously at Feng Wu and Chaoge. Feng Wu couldn't be bothered to respond. Chaoge was speechless. Ziling was excited. The class president was on her team. We're going to be the best team, she thought to herself. An assistant tutor was already speaking on the platform. Their mission was to hunt white and lion elephants. The animals lived in the outer circle of Thousand Night Forest. They were giant beasts with the head of a lion and the body of an elephant. They had terrifying strength. A student could earn a point when they obtained a crystal core from a white and lion elephant. Feng Wu was in Team 001, and Lu Xiao was in Team 015. Jingyu, you're not in our team this time. I'm so sad, someone said mockingly as she walked past Feng Wu. Feng Wu looked up. The girl beamed at her. I'm Pei Si. Would you like to join my team? Feng Wu frowned. There was something condescending about the girl's tone, which she didn't like. You don't want to? Miss President is going to get you killed. See you later. Pei Si's 4 friends chuckled and dashed off. That stupid girl. How dare she act like she's better than us? Mu Qianqian clenched her fists. Feng Wu glanced at Ziling. Ziling explained, Class E has a ranking system. All the students are on it, and it's updated each month. Jingyu is currently the top student, and Pei Si is second. She then lowered her voice. Pei Si only joined the academy last year, but she's been making rapid progress. Jingyu feels threatened because Pei Si is also outgoing and likes to make friends. Chaoge was glad to hear that. Feng Wu knew what Sun Jingyu was doing. Someone higher up had probably given Sun Jingyu instructions, telling her to choose Feng Wu as a team member so as to plot against her later. At that thought, she glanced at Sun Jingyu. She recalled what the assistant tutor said earlier. No one is allowed to rob other people of their crystal cores, retaliate against personal enemies, go deep into the woods. Or, Ziling whispered, Mr. Tan, the assistant tutor, is the moderator's husband. As for what kind of person he is, you'll see. Let's begin. After Mr. Tan made that announcement, the students dashed off in all directions. Let's go. Mu Qianqian said impatiently. Do you think the white and lion elephants are going to come to you? Chaoge glared at her. Be polite. Mu Qianqian said, I am polite. Their shouting was giving Sun Jingyu a headache, so she shouted, Shut up, both of you. Mu Qianqian immediately stopped talking, and Chaoge didn't persist either. Sun Jingyu glared at Feng Wu. Keep your friend on a leash. Feng Wu shrugged. Sun Jingyu wanted to smack Feng Wu, but she had a mission, so she could only take a deep breath. Chapter 2543 Take Action 1. Sun Jingyu snorted. Enough with the nonsense. Follow me. I know where to find the white and lion elephants. While she took the lead, Mu Qianqian walked in the rear. Feng Wu wondered if they were making sure that no one followed them. She looked forward to seeing what would happen next. Sun Jingyu led them to the northeast. At first, there were many students around, but as they walked deeper into the woods, there was hardly anyone around. Ziling felt that something was wrong, so she asked, Why haven't we started hunting? She had seen several white and lion elephants running past them. They didn't need to carry the entire animal back. The crystal core alone was enough. It was so convenient, but they hadn't started yet. Ziling was perplexed. But she didn't dare question Sun Jingyu either, so she asked the question in a tiny voice. Mu Qianqian snapped, Shut up. Who gave you permission to speak? Ziling immediately fell silent. A common Class E student like Ziling wouldn't dare offend the more influential groups, and Mu Qianqian was a member of such a group. Chaoge was displeased and glared at Mu Qianqian. You shut up. Who the hell do you think you are? Mu Qianqian was about to retort, when Sun Jingyu silenced her with a glance. Mu Qianqian took the hint. She smirked and ignored Chaoge. Chaoge didn't see the interaction. She patted Ziling on the shoulder and said, They like bullying nice people. Be fiercer and she won't dare to treat you that way. Ziling didn't know what to say. She wanted to do that, but she wasn't capable enough. Mu Qianqian threw a dirty look at Chaoge. You just wait. I'll make you cry later. They traveled a few more kilometers and were about to reach the middle of the woods. Sun Jingyu stopped. Let's wait here, she said. Mu Qianqian was thrilled. She clenched her fists and gave Feng Wu and Chaoge a taunting look. It's so dangerous here. Ziling stepped onto a rock and looked into the valley nearby. There are so many white and lion elephants down there. Chaoge asked curiously, Isn't that a good thing? Sun Jingyu and Mu Qianqian were both amazed by her question. Gosh, there are so many of them. Chaoge looked to the northeast and saw a large pack of white and lion elephants in the valley. That place looked like their natural habitat. That must be where all the white and lion elephants came from. Just then they heard a loud noise. Boom! That was... The white and lion elephants are coming. Ziling shouted, "It's a pair of them." Chowga said, "Just two? Why are you so afraid?" Ziling was perplexed, but it then occurred to her. Chowga is a good cultivator, at least better than I am. And there's Jingyu as well. Chapter 2544, Take Action, 2. Ziling didn't see Sun Jingyu and Mu Qianqian when she turned around, and she panicked a little. Where did they go? Chowga said, "They can go wherever they want. We're better off without them." They were still talking when two white lion elephants noticed them. Feng Wu was about to make a move when Chowga stopped her. "Xiao Wu," said Chowga, "can you wait until I can't hold them back anymore?" Feng Wu said, "All right." Chowga had been making rapid progress lately, and she needed the practice before she made any more breakthroughs. Feng Wu handed her fire dragon rod to Chowga. It was the same weapon she had used to beat up the Gu brothers, but she preferred her sword, so she gave the rod to Chowga. "Wow. The fire dragon rod." Ziling was thrilled. Feng Wu asked, "Do you know what it is?" Ziling said, "Of course. It's ranked the third most effective weapon in its category. It's worth at least millions of gold coins." She stared at Feng Wu in disbelief and couldn't imagine how rich the latter had to be. Ziling looked at Chowga expectantly, wondering how excited the latter had to be. To her surprise, Chowga wasn't excited. She only picked up the rod and shouted, "Xiao Wu, just wait and see." Whoosh! She charged at the animals with the rod in her hand. Chowga had learned her moves from Unflower. Unflower's moves were as elegant as dancing flowers. But Chowga's moves were much more forceful. "Watch out!" Ziling saw the two white and lion elephants charge at Chowga. Although Sun Jingyu and Mu Qianqian were headed Chowga's way, they didn't show any intention to help her. Grinding her teeth, Ziling grabbed her weapon and charged at the beasts. She stopped one of the white and lion elephants so that Chowga didn't need to fight two at a time. "How ridiculous!" Mu Qianqian smirked. "I didn't know that she was so stupid." Sun Jingyu snorted. "She has a death wish, so let's fulfill it for her." Mu Qianqian was glad when she saw Ziling's reaction. It made her feel that she had chosen the right side. Ziling, on the other hand, was stupid enough to side with the two new students. A 5-member team could only handle 2 white and lion elephants at a time, but now, those 3 people were all on their own. Sun Jingyu and Mu Qianqian gloated at their predicament. Thump! Chowga leaped high into the air and smashed down with the fire dragon rod. Both Sun Jingyu and Mu Qianqian were convinced that she was going to fail. They believed that she was going to be trampled. To their surprise, when Chowga charged at the white and lion elephant from above, the animal stopped moving as if it was frozen. That was the effect of the fire dragon rod. It could slow down all living creatures in its range. The white and lion elephant had never felt like this before. And Chowga took advantage of that pause. Chapter 2545, Take Action, 3. Thump. The fire dragon rod smashed onto the animal's head. Mu Qianqian's eyes widened. Because Duan Chowga, the new student, killed a white and lion elephant with one strike. Mu Qianqian could never do that all by herself. But she didn't want to admit that Chowga was better than she was. To her astonishment, Chowga was already charging at the other white and lion elephant. Meanwhile, Ziling was being chased around by the white and lion elephant. Chowga leaped into the air again. While the white and lion elephant was slowed down by the fire dragon rod, she hit it on the head. Poof! Its head exploded, and the beast fell into a heap on the ground. Mu Qianqian was astonished. She involuntarily grabbed Sun Jingyu's hand. Jingyu, look. Chowga's reaction was beyond her imagination. Sun Jingyu smirked. She only killed 2 beasts. It's not a big deal. Ziling was amazed. She knew that Chowga was better than she was, but she never expected that with the help of the fire dragon rod, Chowga could do such amazing things. She gave Chowga a thumbs up. Chowga, you're much better than any of the Class C students. Mu Qianqian was displeased. Any of the Class E students? What was that supposed to mean? 3 more white and lion elephants arrived. Mu Qianxian smirked. She didn't believe that Chaoga could fight off all 3 fully developed beasts. Thump. Chaoga charged at the white and lion elephants before they could make their move. She jumped up and struck one of them. Instinct told her that if she chose the white and lion elephant that was at the front, the other 2 would immediately surround her. But if she chose the one at the rear, the other 2 would need time to react. Her instinct was correct. The 3rd white and lion elephant didn't expect to become the first target, and its head cracked open before it had time to react. By the time the other 2 white and lion elephants realized what had happened and came after Chaoga, Ziling had arrived with her sword, shouting, "Chaoga," just like before. She stalled one of the beasts for Chaoga, who would come to help her after she killed the other one. After the first round, they worked even better together this time. Thump. Thump. Chaoga killed the 2 white and lion elephants in less than a minute. Ziling was thrilled. She ran toward Chaoga and shouted, "Chaoga, you're amazing. You killed 5 white and lion elephants." Chaoga was perplexed. "Is that a lot?" Ziling said, "It's not a lot, but it'll give you enough points. We hunt white and lion elephants quite often, so I know how many beasts each team can kill on average. There are 300 teams in total, and killing 5 white and lion elephants will put our team in the top 200. Ziling was an average student of Class E, and her team was usually ranked around 200. Chapter 2546, Take Action 4. Chaoga said, "So, we can earn points, right?" Ziling said, "Yes. We'll earn the minimum points when we're ranked higher than 200. Chaoga, you're so amazing. My previous teams had to fight a whole day and still couldn't kill 5 beasts." Chaoga was perplexed. "But it's so easy." "So easy?" Mu Qianxian wanted to smack Chaoga on the head. Killing 5 white lion elephants could never be easy. She would never be able to do it on her own. She's just showing off. Mu Qianxian thought resentfully. Ziling idolized Chaoga. "Chaoga, you did all that on your own, so you must be as capable as Mu Qianxian is. I can wait to see our final result." Mu Qianxian glared at Ziling. "As capable as I am? Are you blind? I'm clearly much better." "What? Do you have a second opinion?" Chaoga glanced at her. Mu Qianxian smirked and wouldn't reply. Chaoga said, "Let's have a competition, then. See which of us can hunt more white lion elephants." Mu Qianxian still wouldn't answer. Chaoga said, "You don't have the guts to compete with me, but you won't admit that I'm better than you. I've never met anyone so pretentious." Mu Qianxian stomped her foot in frustration. "You." Chaoga shook her head. "I what? Fight me? All you ever do is snort. Do you think you're Zhuo Qingwan?" Mu Qianxian was infuriated. She rolled up her sleeves. "Bring it on. You can't intimidate me." 5 white lion elephants were coming their way. Chaoga glanced at Feng Wu. Somehow, she felt that someone was controlling the number of white lion elephants that could approach them. Could it be Xiao Wu? Right now, Feng Wu was sitting on a rock with her eyes closed and her legs crossed. She was cultivating. Mu Qianxian followed Chaoga's gaze and saw Feng Wu on the rock. She smirked. "Why are you looking at her? Do you think she can help you with hunting the white lion elephants? She's useless." Chaoga concluded that Mu Qianxian was an idiot. Sun Jingyu felt the same way as Mu Qianxian and sneered at Feng Wu as well. "We're all here to hunt white lion elephants, but she's been sitting there ever since she arrived. Who does she think she is? That's just so arrogant." Sun Jingyu didn't like Feng Wu at all. If she knew how these white lion elephants were being controlled. Chaoga charged at the white lion elephants before Mu Qianxian could make a move. Mu Qianxian was scared. Each of the white lion elephants was 10 times bigger than she was. Normally, she couldn't run away fast enough. "Are you scared? What a coward. Let me teach you how to hunt." "No, you won't." Mu Qianxian was furious. Agitated by Chaoga's words, she grabbed her sword and charged out before Sun Jingyu could stop her. Thump. Chowga ran away from the pack after she killed the first white lion elephant. Mu Qianqian just happened to run into the circle at that moment. Immediately, 4 white lion elephants surrounded her. Chapter 2547, More Action, 1. Standing next to the 4 white lion elephants, Mu Qianqian looked as frail as a straw. The dead white lion elephant's blood had splashed everywhere. The smell agitated the 4 beasts, and they lost control. When Mu Qianqian arrived, they attacked her without hesitation. Ah! Mu Qianqian shouted in agony. She wanted to flee but was surrounded, and she wasn't capable enough to defeat them either. She was flustered and didn't know what to do. Chowga took the chance to start knocking the beasts on the head with her fire dragon rod. Thump, 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 thump. She killed all 5 white lion elephants in the end. Mu Qianqian was so frightened that her face was ghastly pale. Her clothes were disheveled, and she kept waving her hands around like a crazy person. Hey, stop. Chowga patted her on the shoulder. Only then did Mu Qianqian calm down. She looked at Chowga in bewilderment and was dumbfounded when she saw the dead white lion elephants around them. Did you do this? She glared at Chowga. Chowga raised her chin. Now you know how good I am. Mu Qianqian only yelled at her. You stole my white lion elephants. You're so disgusting. That's cheating. Chowga was perplexed. She had saved Mu Qianqian, but the girl was accusing her of cheating. You're unbelievable. Chowga started walking away from her. Mu Qianqian ran after her. Their attention was on me, which was why you could kill them all at once. You don't get to claim all the rewards. You should give me at least 2, no, 3 crystal cores. I'm better than you. Chowga rolled her eyes at Mu Qianqian. Talking to you is an insult to my intelligence. Mu Qianqian was going to chase Chowga, but was stopped by Sun Jingyu's stern look. Recalling their plan, Mu Qianqian calmed down and snorted at Chowga, who had turned her back on her. I'll live with your arrogance for now because you'll be dead soon. Mu Qianqian went to Sun Jingyu's side and looked forward to what would happen next. We have 10 crystal cores already. Ziling took Chowga's hands in excitement. We'll be ranked in the top 150 teams at least. Chowga asked, can we rank that high? Ziling said, yes, it's relatively easy to be ranked between 100 and 200. It'll get more and more difficult to move up the rankings after that. Mu Qianqian smirked. I'll report you for cheating. Chowga found her claim idiotic. She told Feng Wu, no matter what happens to her later, I won't help her. Xiaowu, you should do the same. Feng Wu nodded. Why had she been cultivating since she arrived? It wasn't just for show. She had noticed that the forest had the purest spiritual essence. Since the white lion elephants had all gathered in this area, it meant that the spiritual essence was the densest here. That was why they had chosen to live in this spot. Feng Wu could feel her cultivation level rising as she sat there. Her capability had reached level 9 of the spiritual lord stage. Chapter 2548, More Action, 2. Ordinary people couldn't imagine how difficult it was to advance from a level 9 spiritual lord to a spiritual king. Countless people had never been able to break that barrier. Feng Wu wanted to become a spiritual king as soon as possible because Zhuo Qingwan was a level 1 spiritual king. Now that she was about to catch up with Zhuo Qingwan, she didn't want to waste a single minute. That was why she was so focused on her cultivation. She hadn't been able to find a way at first, but she had an epiphany when she saw the white lion elephant herd earlier. After circulating the spiritual essence through her energy channels, she felt everything clearing up. If one were to quantify it, she was 3% into completing the task. 3% wasn't much, but it was a start, and Feng Wu was happy with the progress. When Sun Jingyu saw Feng Wu nodding at Chowga after the latter suggested that they shouldn't help Mu Qianqian, she was speechless. She found their reaction ridiculous. How could that useless Feng Wu agree? She wasn't even as good as Duan Chowga. Why did Sun Jingyu know that? Because she had been told that Feng Wu was even weaker than her maid, let alone Duan Chowga. The news had spread in the War Academy. Most students didn't care much because Feng Wu was in Class E. That was too low a level for them to be concerned with. But all the students in Class E had heard the news. They believed that Feng Wu was useless. Mu Qianqian believed that Feng Wu was bluffing as well. But what they didn't know was that Feng Wu was so capable that she could control all the white lion elephants. "That's so strange," said Mu Qianqian. "The other white lion elephants should have run in our direction when they heard the sound of fighting. Where are they now?" Sun Jingyu was perplexed as well. The beasts were coming in 3s or 5s, as if to train Chaoga. Was someone controlling them? How strange. "Here they are." Mu Qianqian pointed at some white lion elephants in the distance. She was so excited that she took Sun Jingyu's hand. "They're coming, right?" Sun Jingyu and Mu Qianqian had disappeared at first because they had gone to set up a trap. "Yes, there they are." Sun Jingyu grinned maliciously. She couldn't wait to see how Feng Wu would react when 10 white lion elephants were charging at her. She wouldn't be able to sit there and cultivate anymore. Sun Jingyu had used a luring agent to attract the white lion elephant's attention, and she had sprinkled the same potion around the rock that Feng Wu was sitting on. That would lead the white lion elephants directly to Feng Wu. Sun Jingyu didn't dislike Feng Wu to the point of wanting to kill her, but her patron had paid her enough to persuade her otherwise. Mu Qianqian grinned when she saw the beasts charging at Feng Wu. But it baffled her when she saw that Feng Wu wasn't nervous. Why wasn't Duan Chaoga nervous? Even Zi Ling wasn't nervous. That was so strange. Chapter 2549, More Action, 3. When the white lion elephants reached Feng Wu, they suddenly stopped and bowed to her, which amazed Mu Qianqian. What was wrong with these beasts? Mu Qianqian and Sun Jingyu looked at each other and were both confused. What confused them even more was that the white lion elephants turned around. They were facing the opposite direction now. Boom! The white lion elephants glared at Sun Jingyu and Mu Qianqian. Sun Jingyu was speechless. So was Mu Qianqian. Their hearts sank and they had a bad feeling. They were right. The white lion elephants were charging at them now. How was that even possible? Sun Jingyu couldn't believe her eyes. Anyone would find it incredible, but it couldn't change the fact. The two of them couldn't change the white lion elephant's behavior. Soon, they were surrounded by over 20 beasts. Mu Qianqian almost lost her mind when she had to face 5 white lion elephants. Now there were 4 times that. She screamed and grabbed Sun Jingyu's hand. "Jingyu, what's going on? Help me. Do something." Sun Jingyu was dumbfounded. She had used the potion so that the white lion elephants would attack Feng Wu. Why was this happening? She wanted to run. But where could she run to? She couldn't get away. They were both surrounded by white lion elephants. They had no choice but to fight. But there were so many of them. Sun Jingyu was filled with despair. Thump! A white lion elephant threw its trunk around Sun Jingyu's waist and tossed her into the air. Sun Jingyu rose and fell. She managed to flip around in mid-air and landed on the back of a white lion elephant. She wrapped her arms around it. No matter how violently it struggled, she wouldn't let go. Mu Qianqian copied her move. She jumped onto a white lion elephant and wouldn't let go of its head either. She shouted at Chaoga, "Kill them now." Chaoga glanced at her. "Didn't you say that I was cheating? You can have it all to yourself now." Mu Qianqian was almost in tears. She had no choice but to beg Chaoga. "I shouldn't have said that. Help us now. Jingyu will owe you a favor, and that doesn't happen every day." How condescending. Chaoga shrugged. "Why do you think we need it?" She yawned as she spoke. "I've killed 10 white lion elephants. I'm tired. I need to take a break." She then lay down on a big rock to take a nap. Mu Qianqian was flustered. "Duan Chaoga, I'm begging you. Do something. Kill these beasts. I don't want any crystal cores. You can have them all. Help." Things were getting out of hand. Mu Qianqian and Sun Jingyu could be killed at any moment. Sun Jingyu held a black object in her hand and hesitated. It was an explosive ball that had cost her several hundred points. She had been saving it until now. Chapter 2550, More Action 4. She couldn't delay any longer. Mu Qianqian jump. Sun Jingyu gave the final warning. Thump. She then threw the ball at the beasts. Boom. All the white lion elephants were injured. The more severely injured ones fell to the ground and screeched, and those with minor injuries angrily chased Sun Jingyu and Mu Qianqian. Chaoga had to be a fool to miss such a great opportunity. She told Ziling, "Get the crystal cores." Ziling finally knew what to do. "I'm coming." But she was kind enough to ask, "What about Jingyu?" Chaoga snapped, "They've lured quite a few white lion elephants away. The two of us would never be able to handle all of the beasts at once. If I'm right, they'll circle back soon. Do it now." Ziling didn't believe that Sun Jingyu would bring the white lion elephants back here. But she couldn't waste such a great chance. 15 white lion elephants were lying on the ground. 10 of them had been at the center of the explosion and had the most injuries. They were grumbling on the ground and couldn't get up. Chaoga raised her fire dragon rod and killed each beast with a single blow to the head. Thump, thump, thump. Ziling followed her and picked up the crystal cores. They finished off all 15 injured white lion elephants in less than a minute. Meanwhile, Sun Jingyu and Mu Qianqian were still running. 10 beasts were chasing Sun Jingyu, and 5 were chasing Mu Qianqian. These beasts were injured as well, but they had been further away from the explosion, and their wounds were all superficial. Mu Qianqian ran very fast. She was also injured. Normally, she would be crying and want to give up, but with her life on the line, she ran as fast as she could. She had lost one shoe, but that didn't slow her down. However, she was getting tired, and the beasts were almost on her. She knew that she couldn't go on like this. If she didn't do something, she would die. She decided that she had to lure these white lion elephants back to where they came from and let Duan Chaoga kill them. She took a U-turn and ran in the direction she had come from. Chaoga was casually picking up the crystal cores when Mu Qianqian arrived. Damn it. Mu Qianqian thought, the white lion elephants should be charging at Duan Chaoga and Feng Wu, but Sun Jingyu and I were surrounded instead. Not only that, Duan Chaoga also collected all the crystal cores. Sun Jingyu spent so many points on that explosive ball. That was so frustrating. But she couldn't lash out at Duan Chaoga. She still needed her help. She ran to Duan Chaoga's side and cried, "Chaoga, help me. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done all those things. Please help me. We're on the same team." Ziling frowned at Mu Qianqian. Because Mu Qianqian hung out with Sun Jingyu, she was very picky about whom she befriended. She had always been arrogant toward all her classmates in Class E. Ziling had never seen her so flustered. Chapter 2551, Please, 1. Chaoga, Ziling spoke in a pleading tone. Chaoga smirked. "No, I'm not helping her. I'll kill the white lion elephants when she's dead." Ziling said, "But a team's points will be cancelled if a team member dies. The points will go to the next team on the rankings." "What? Why?" Chaoga couldn't believe it. "To protect the students, I guess?" Ziling didn't know the answer either, but rules were rules. "Fine." Chaoga rolled her eyes at Mu Qianqian. "Let the white lion elephants chase you, and I'll kill them." Mu Qianqian was exhausted. She wanted to lie down, but she knew that if she did so, Chaoga would let the white lion elephants trample her. She let the white lion elephants chase her until Chaoga killed them all. She was so tired that she passed out as soon as she lay on the ground. Meanwhile, Sun Jingyu was also being chased by white lion elephants. There were 10 beasts in total. She couldn't outrun them forever. And she wasn't capable enough to fight them. She couldn't run for much longer. She couldn't understand why she had to run away after using the explosive ball. They were on the same team, but Feng Wu could sit there and cultivate as if she wasn't affected at all. Sun Jingyu wouldn't let that happen. At that thought, she also did a U-turn. She decided that if she had to die, she would bring Feng Wu down with her. When she returned, She was surprised to find all the white lion elephants dead on the ground. All their heads had been smashed in, and the crystal cores had been gouged out. It had to be Duan Chaoga's doing. Sun Jingyu was so frustrated. Why did this even happen? She glared at Chaoga. Come here and help me. Chaoga was sitting on a big rock with her legs crossed. She was chewing on a blade of grass and looked quite at ease. She only glanced at Sun Jingyu when she heard her. Then she began to hum a tune. Sun Jingyu was furious. She bellowed at Chaoga, Duan Chaoga, I'm ordering you as the president of Class E. Get down here and help me. Chaoga ignored her. She even turned around and pretended not to see Sun Jingyu. Sun Jingyu couldn't believe it. She looked over her shoulder as she ran. Why wouldn't the beasts go after the others? She wasn't the only human here. For some reason, she felt that the white lion elephants hated her even more. Mu Qianqian, help me, she shouted. Mu Qianqian had woken up already. But when she heard Sun Jingyu, she pretended that she was still unconscious. Sun Jingyu was speechless. She could tell that the girl was awake. Her eyeballs were moving behind her eyelids. Mu Qianqian, you'll pay for this. Sun Jingyu thought resentfully. She tried to figure out a way to escape. Chapter 2552, Please, 2. She tried her best to lure the white lion elephants toward Feng Wu, but to no avail. The white lion elephants wouldn't go anywhere near Feng Wu. That was so strange. Roar! The white lion elephants roared and charged at Sun Jingyu. Her patron had paid her generously, but she valued her life even more. She decided that she could humiliate Feng Wu after she killed all the white lion elephants on her own. At that thought, she took out the last explosive ball and threw it at the white lion elephants. It exploded right away. Boom! Over half a dozen white lion elephants were severely injured and fell to the ground. Only 2 were still standing. Both of them chased Sun Jingyu. She was confident that she could kill 2 white lion elephants. While Sun Jingyu was fighting the 2 beasts, Chaoga jumped into the air. The next second, she landed next to the severely injured white lion elephants and killed them all. She then dug out all the crystal cores. As a result, Sun Jingyu had used up her expensive explosive balls and only obtained 2 crystal cores in the end. She was furious when she saw what Chaoga was doing. What are you doing? She shouted at her. I'm helping you. Didn't you just ask me for help? Chaoga said innocently. Sun Jingyu didn't know what to say. She did do that, but that was before she used the explosive balls. She didn't need any help now. Chaoga said, I killed all those white lion elephants for you. Shouldn't you be thanking me? Sun Jingyu said, Give me the crystal cores. Chaoga said, You're not only scolding me, but you're also trying to rob my crystal cores. Sun Jingyu thought she was going to explode. She gave Chaoga a stern look before she looked at Feng Wu. Filled with rage, she shouted at Feng Wu. What's the matter with you? You've been sitting there since we arrived. Who could do such a thing? That's out of line. Chaoga frowned. She could stand it when Sun Jingyu yelled at her, but she wouldn't let anyone talk to Xiao Wu that way. Sun Jingyu lashed out at Feng Wu. Do you really think you're a big shot? You're just sitting there while the white lion elephants chase us around. Are you going to depend on Duan Chaoga like that from now on? She's not good enough to protect you. Feng Wu was at a critical moment in her cultivation and had closed all her senses to the outside world. Chaoga was angry. She shoved Sun Jingyu. What's that supposed to mean? Xiao Wu doesn't depend on anyone. Sun Jingyu just smirked. She didn't think that Feng Wu would be a problem, but she wasn't sure if she could handle Chaoga because the girl was getting stronger as the hunt continued. Jingyu, you're amazing. Seeing that Sun Jingyu was safe, Mu Qianqian rose to her feet and ran to her side. Sun Jingyu didn't respond. Mu Qianqian went on, You're the best member in our team. If it hadn't been for you, the 30 white lion elephants would charge us all at once, and we would all be killed. She then held Sun Jingyu's arm and smiled obsequiously. Thank you for saving my life. Sun Jingyu rolled her eyes at Mu Qianqian but accepted the flattery. Chapter 2553. Feng Wu is so capable. Seeing that Sun Jingyu liked those words, Mu Qianqian was relieved. She still had to rely on Sun Jingyu in Class E and couldn't afford to offend her. Sun Jingyu looked arrogantly at Feng Wu. There was contempt in her eyes. She actually thinks that she's cultivating. How ridiculous! Mu Qianqian also gave Feng Wu an arrogant glance. She murmured, Chaoga has some skills, but Feng Wu is completely useless. She's been sitting there since we got here and hasn't lifted a finger. Sun Jingyu's face darkened. Was she going to let Feng Wu go? Of course not. She gave Mu Qianqian a warning look. Mu Qianqian was scared, but she didn't dare defy Sun Jingyu, and gave her a nod. Mu Qianqian walked away, and Sun Jingyu gave Feng Wu a taunting look. She had used all her cards. If she still couldn't kill Feng Wu, there was nothing she could do. Before long, there was a rumbling noise. The ground shook. Chaoga frowned. What's that noise? Sun Jingyu knew the answer. She had asked Mu Qianqian to lure all the white lion elephants toward them. The entire pack. Sun Jingyu had used up her points to buy a potion that could drive the white lion elephants into a frenzied state. How many white lion elephants were there? 100. 200. No, there were at least 1,000 of them. The sound was so loud and it made one tremble. Gosh! That was crazy. Sun Jingyu beamed at Feng Wu. She had poured a bottle of adhesive down the slope when she had mocked Feng Wu. By now, it should have reached where Feng Wu was sitting and stuck her to the rock. Sun Jingyu wanted to laugh. She couldn't wait to see how Feng Wu was going to fight all the white lion elephants. She then ran in the other direction. Chaoga noticed her abnormal behavior. Why are you running? Stop. She ran after her. Sun Jingyu was the president of Class E and was at least as capable as Chaoga. Therefore, Chaoga couldn't catch up with Sun Jingyu. Damn it! Chaoga was frustrated. I'll settle the score with you when we get back. But she chuckled. Sun Jingyu had thought that she could get away, but white lion elephants were coming her way as well. She almost ran into one of them. Shit! Sun Jingyu was a little flustered, but she reacted in time and turned around to run in a different direction. But she only managed to take a few steps. Chaoga didn't know if she should laugh or cry. She wanted to laugh because Sun Jingyu's way was blocked by white lion elephants again. She wanted to cry because white lion elephants were coming at them in all directions. Sun Jingyu screamed. How could this have happened? Why was she surrounded by white lion elephants? Was it Mu Qianqian's doing? Sun Jingyu couldn't think straight anymore. She didn't know who had set her up and was on the verge of having a nervous breakdown. She couldn't handle 10 white lion elephants, let alone 1,000 of them. 1,000. I'm going to die. Sun Jingyu cried and regretted her decision. Chapter 2554, Untitled. Why did she accept this mission? She was going to get herself killed. Sun Jingyu had never regretted her decision so much. Help! She panicked and started running around. But she had nowhere to go. White lion elephants ran toward her like an unstoppable tidal wave. Thump, thump, thump. Sun Jingyu was surrounded and severely injured. She couldn't last past 3 seconds. Thump. She was knocked away and fell to the ground. Chaoga and Ziling weren't doing much better. They kept falling back and couldn't hold on much longer. Feng Wu finally opened her eyes. She sensed that she had completed 5% of her breakthrough. She didn't know if other people could feel it, but she could. It was a strange feeling. Feng Wu moved. Fallen Star Swordplay. She activated the Fallen Star Swordplay and struck down. Her energy poured out like a wall of waves. Whoosh! The white lion elephants' heads were severed from their bodies when they made contact with the energy. Thump, thump, thump. The heads fell to the ground. Gosh! Chaoga wasn't surprised by the scene. Because Ziling had seen how Feng Wu had defeated Yi Han, she wasn't shocked either. Sun Jingyu was the astonished one. She was dumbfounded. 1, 2, 3. 10, 20, 30. The energy spread out from Feng Wu at the center. All white lion elephants within reach had their heads chopped off. Holy crap! Sun Jingyu looked at Feng Wu and felt as if she had been slapped. It hurt. But she grew excited. She was going to live. She wasn't going to die. Seeing that Chaoga and Ziling were running toward Feng Wu, Sun Jingyu followed suit. She ran toward Feng Wu as well. She didn't care about her dignity. She wanted to live. Chaoga frowned at Sun Jingyu. Didn't you just call Xiao Wu useless? Why are you running to her side? Sun Jingyu ignored her and stood close to Feng Wu. Chaoga said, "You're shameless." Sun Jingyu still wouldn't reply. The white lion elephants were shocked by Feng Wu's first strike. Seeing that Feng Wu didn't move, they charged at her again. Boom! Although Feng Wu had killed dozens of white lion elephants, there were still a lot of them left. It was a terrifying scene. Sun Jingyu said in a shaky voice, "We should run. We can't fight 1,000 white lion elephants. We should retreat while Feng Wu still has strength left. That way we may survive this." Sun Jingyu spoke anxiously to Feng Wu. Ziling was anxious as well. There were so many white lion elephants. Normally, she would have to work with a teammate just to kill one of them. Chapter 2555. Feng Wu the God, 1. Both Sun Jingyu and Ziling gave Feng Wu pleading looks, but Feng Wu only looked straight ahead. The white lion elephants were rushing toward them. Sun Jingyu and Ziling turned pale. Feng Wu struck out. Fallen Star Swordplay, second stance. This time, she released even more energy. Whoosh! It spread out over 300 meters. This strike was 3 times more powerful than the first one. More white lion elephant heads fell to the ground. Oh my God! Sun Jingyu was astonished. Because it was such a terrifying scene. Feng Wu had killed dozens of white lion elephants with one strike earlier, which was beyond Sun Jingyu's imagination. Had she just killed 100 beasts with one strike? Sun Jingyu did a count. Feng Wu had killed 123 white lion elephants with this strike. Sun Jingyu wanted to kneel on the ground. She turned around and looked at Feng Wu in disbelief. She couldn't believe that she had tried to kill Feng Wu. She wanted to dig a hole in the ground and hide inside. That was such incredible power. What on earth was Feng Wu's cultivation level? The blow was so hard that Sun Jingyu didn't want to speak. She wondered why she had turned Feng Wu into her enemy. She didn't have a death wish. She took a few deep breaths to force herself to calm down. The white lion elephants were dumbfounded as well. Human teenagers came here to fight them all the time, but they had never been defeated like this, so the white lion elephants continued to live in this area. But this human girl was so terrifying. They decided that it was time to run. All the white lion elephants switched directions. "You're my points. Where do you think you're going?" Chaoga wouldn't let them run. "With Gu Xingyuan in this competition, we may not be the top team." Chaoga sounded concerned. Feng Wu nodded and struck out again. Ground control. With that, the running white lion elephants were all frozen on the spot. Fallen Star Swordplay, third stance. The sword shot up into the air and turned into a dragon. Roar! The dragon's roar resonated in the air. Whoosh! Nearly 1,000 white lion elephants were still standing. But they were all frozen on the spot when the dragon appeared. Whoosh! Heads fell on the ground and exploded one after another. Sun Jingyu couldn't see anything but sparks. She was so shocked that she swayed and almost passed out. She was filled with fear and reverence. She knew she had underestimated Feng Wu, but she didn't know that Feng Wu could be so incredibly powerful. How talented was she? She was probably good enough to graduate and even become a teacher in the academy, but she joined Class E instead. Not only that, she also concealed her true power. Moreover, she didn't react when other people provoked her. Sun Jingyu buried her face in her hands when she recalled what she had said to Feng Wu before, as well as her pathetic attempt to assassinate her. Feng Wu, Sun Jingyu didn't know what to say. Chapter 2556, Feng Wu the God, 2. Feng Wu, Sun Jingyu was so ashamed that she blushed and stuttered. Feng Wu only glanced at her. She didn't care about Sun Jingyu's attitude toward her. Chaoga was the smart one. She called for Ziling when she saw all the dead white lion elephants. Come here and help me collect the crystal cores. Ziling was also dumbfounded. She stared at Feng Wu and forgot how to blink. She had thought that Feng Wu wouldn't be much more powerful than Yi Han, but reality had slapped her in the face. Not much more powerful than Yi Han. Feng Wu was even better than students of Class A. Ziling. Chaoga called for Ziling again while the latter was still feeling dazed. Right? Sure. Only then did Ziling rush to her side to help her with the crystal cores. Picking them up was all she needed to do. Just pick them off the ground. Before, Ziling and her teammates had to risk their lives to kill one white lion elephant, but now she could just pick up the crystal cores. She was both excited and bewildered. Sun Jingyu was a little embarrassed. Seeing that Feng Wu wouldn't talk to her, she said, "I'll help them." There were crystal cores all over the ground. They almost didn't have enough time to pick up all of them. Comparisons could be so odious. Feng Wu raised her eyebrows. She felt that she could obtain energy from the crystal cores. She held one in her hand, and the crystal core crumbled after its energy was drained. She could sense that the energy in her dantian had increased a little. It wasn't enough to raise the percentage to 6%, but it was an increase. Feng Wu looked at the others. Can the crystal cores be used directly for cultivation? She directed the question at Sun Jingyu. Being the class president, she obviously knew better than the other students. Sun Jingyu shook her head. No, they can't. We can only use the crystal cores after the academy takes them away and refines them in a special way. The potions created can be used for cultivation. Really? Feng Wu was bewildered because she could use them directly. What she didn't know was that such a thing could only be done by people who had the Phoenix bloodline. They put all the crystal cores in a bag and brought them to Feng Wu. Feng Wu asked Sun Jingyu, "Usually, how many crystal cores do you need to be first?" Sun Jingyu was the class president and had participated in events like these many times. 100 should have been enough, said Sun Jingyu, but Gu Xingyuan is here now, and to be honest, I assumed that he would be first. I see now that it'll be you. Feng Wu nodded and only said, "Let's go back." They walked in the direction they had come from. Sun Jingyu had led the team on their way here. She had been so confident that she would be the top student in Class E. But now, she stayed an arm's length behind Feng Wu and didn't dare say a word. She even walked behind Chaoga and next to Ziling. For them, the event was over, but for the other students, it had probably ended for them as well. It was just that they didn't know it yet. Mu Qianqian found a team after she ran away to get help. It was Gu Xingyuan's team. Chapter 2557, Was Feng Wu second? Gu Xingyuan's team had some very capable members. The team leader was Pei Si, one of the top students of Class E and Sun Jingyu's top rival. Chu Junying went everywhere with Gu Xingyuan, so of course she was in the team. The other one was Pei Si's friend. Those were the 5 members of Team 2. Mu Qianqian ran into them, and Pei Si killed the 2 white lion elephants chasing her without difficulty. Mu Qianqian? Pei Si stopped her. Why are you here? Where's your team? Mu Qianqian counted the dead white lion elephants on the ground and saw that there were a few dozen. She then saw the sack hanging on Pei Si's belt and felt her heart sink. There were at least a couple of hundred of crystal cores in it. Where's Sun Jingyu? Why isn't she with you? Where's your team? Pei Si asked. There were so many white lion elephants. I barely managed to get away. I need to find a teacher. We need help. Mu Qianqian pointed in the direction she had come from. Pei Si frowned. What happened? Mu Qianqian panicked. She couldn't afford the consequences if all 4 teammates died, especially if Sun Jingyu was one of them, since the latter's family was both rich and influential. At that thought, she burst into tears. I saw many white lion elephants and everyone panicked, so I ran. I ran as fast as I could. Pei Si's eyes widened a little. Many white lion elephants? Did your teammates get away? Sun Jingyu was her rival who had the most capability. I don't know. I think they did. It was so chaotic that we couldn't care about anyone else. Mu Qianqian tried her best to make herself sound innocent. Gu Xingyuan wasn't interested. Pei Si suddenly asked, if I remember correctly, there's a new student in your team, right? Mu Qianqian was frustrated at the thought of Feng Wu. Yes. We have two, actually. One is Feng Wu and the other is Duan Chaoga. I don't know where to begin. Wait. Mu Qianqian suddenly came up with an idea to shift the blame. It was Feng Wu. She overestimated herself and lured in too many white lion elephants. She's to be blamed if anything happens to Jingyu. Feng Wu. Gu Xingyuan was intrigued. The Gu family held a grudge against Feng Wu, and he wanted her dead. Is Feng Wu dead? Gu Xingyuan stared at Mu Qianqian. Mu Qianqian said, I don't know. I don't know what happened after I left. I need to find Mr. Luo, our assistant tutor. Several tutors were patrolling the outer region of the forest to keep the students safe. Mr. Luo arrived at that moment. Mu Qianqian was thrilled. She ran to his side and complained about Feng Wu. She said that Feng Wu was an ignorant new student who had lured in too many white lion elephants. Sun Jingyu, their class president, might have been killed for it. Dead? Comment. The news soon spread. Another team was with Mr. It was the one that Lu Xiao and Zhenya were in. Zhenya had always held a grudge against Ziling and had been paying special attention to her after the latter paired up with Sun Jingyu. Chapter 2558, Feng Wu's Fault. Before Zhenya could ask anything, Mr. Luo set out to look for the team. Pei Si felt that with the tutor here, they would be safe. I don't know why, but there are much fewer white lion elephants now. Shall we look around? Pei Si looked at Gu Xingyuan. Gu Xingyuan nodded and marched out. Pei Si was the team leader, but Gu Xingyuan was a level 6 spiritual lord. After he demonstrated his ability, he became the key member of the team. After Pei Si's team followed Mr. Luo, Lu Xiao wanted to leave with them as well. Zhenya didn't want to go and kept tugging at him. Lu Xiao said coldly, You can't stop me. I have to go. He quickly followed the others. It's because of Ziling, isn't it? You like her? Zhenya had tears in her eyes. Lu Xiao ignored her. Zhenya was frustrated, but she was worried that something would happen between Lu Xiao and Ziling, so she stomped her foot and followed him. She knew that a man would always be soft-hearted toward an injured woman. She had used a lot of tricks to win Lu Xiao's heart, and she wasn't going to let Ziling win him back. Mr. Luo was surprised when he saw Sun Jingyu. Because all four girls looked completely fine. There wasn't a scratch on them, and even their faces were clean. He asked Sun Jingyu, Are you all right? Sun Jingyu was perplexed. Yes, we're fine. Sir, why are you here? Mu Qianqian arrived at that moment, and she couldn't believe her eyes when she saw that Sun Jingyu was still alive. Feng Wu and the others were alive as well, and none of them seemed injured. Mu Qianqian said, Didn't the white lion elephants surround you? How? Pei Si and her team were surprised to see them as well. She said, You're not dead. Sun Jingyu smirked. Does that disappoint you? Pei Si chuckled awkwardly. Jingyu, of course not. We're not that sort of people. Sun Jingyu smirked and thought, Who are you trying to fool? She then turned to Mr. We ran into some white lion elephants, but we're no longer in danger. Please don't worry. Pei Si asked Mu Qianqian, Didn't you say? Mu Qianqian realized what she was asking. She ran to Sun Jingyu's side and said loudly, Jingyu, it was Feng Wu's fault. She lured in all the white lion elephants. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been in danger. Sun Jingyu wanted to roll her eyes. Mu Qianqian didn't know what she was thinking and even winked at her. Chu Juning jumped at the opportunity. Did you say that Feng Wu lured in too many white lion elephants? Mu Qianqian said, Yes. There were so many of them. If it wasn't for her, we would never have. Sun Jingyu glared at her. Shut up. Mu Qianqian knew perfectly well who had lured in the white lion elephants, but she still tried to blame it on Feng Wu. She had no idea how capable Feng Wu was. Sun Jingyu recalled how Feng Wu had killed so many white lion elephants with a single strike. Chapter 2559. Terrifying Feng Wu. Sun Jingyu gave Mu Qianqian a stern look. Mu Qianqian was confused. She knew that Sun Jingyu wanted to kill Feng Wu, and now was a great opportunity. Why was Sun Jingyu giving her that look? Mu Qianqian couldn't figure it out. Chu Junying still tried to circle back to Feng Wu, so she said, I'm sure Jingyu turned things around and saved you all from the white lion elephants. That's the good thing about teaming up with the class president. Feng Wu, you're so lucky. All the other new students gave Feng Wu envious looks. Sun Jingyu wanted to explain, but she knew doing so might reveal some secrets, so she glanced at Feng Wu. Seeing that Feng Wu wasn't going to explain, Sun Jingyu remained silent as well. The others took her attitude for tacit acknowledgement. Mr. Luo said, if everything's fine, let's get back to the hunt. He walked away after that. Pei Si smiled at Sun Jingyu. Jingyu, I have an idea. Would you like to hear it? Sun Jingyu didn't like Pei Si, but she had to show her some respect while everyone was watching, so she said indifferently, go ahead. Pei Si said, since we have 3 teams here, why don't we form an alliance and hunt a pack of white lion elephants together? The pack? Sun Jingyu found the suggestion idiotic. She wondered how Pei Si would react if she knew that Feng Wu had killed the entire herd. She smiled inwardly. However, she pretended that she didn't know anything. A pack? Well, Pei Si said, didn't you run into a pack earlier? All we need to do is lure them here. I'm sure our 3 teams will be more than enough to handle a dozen beasts. A dozen, you say? Sun Jingyu asked deliberately. Pei Si said, if you think that's too much, we can do fewer than 10, just to be safe. Sun Jingyu smiled at her. Pei Si asked, do you have a different opinion? Sun Jingyu said, my opinion has nothing to do with it. It's just, she wanted to say that Feng Wu had destroyed the white lion elephant's habitat, and there were no beasts left in the outer ring of the forest. But she knew that the tutors would be furious if she said that. The white lion elephants were there to help the students train their fighting skills, and the academy had invested in resources for raising them, but now. Pei Si looked around and asked, have you noticed something? Chu Junying asked, what is it? Pei Si said, why do I feel that the white lion elephants have disappeared? Usually, we should see individual beasts along the road, but I haven't seen a single one of them since we arrived. Sun Jingyu glanced at Pei Si with a sense of superiority. Chun Junying said, we didn't find many white lion elephants either. Did we kill them all? Don't be ridiculous. Pei Si didn't agree. There are thousands of them and they multiply very fast. We can kill as many of them as we want, and there will always be more. Just then, they heard someone cry out that it was Mingjie, Pei Si's friend. Mingjie shouted, guys, come here. Pei Si frowned. Let's have a look. She led her team to Mingjie. Chapter 2560. Who did it? Lu Xiao kept his gaze on Ziling. His reaction made Jinya nervous. She tugged at him and said, let's go have a look. Lu Xiao was noticeably reluctant to do so because he wanted to stay with Ziling and see if she had been hurt. Ziling glanced at him and turned to Feng Wu. Let's go back. Feng Wu could see that something was going on between Ziling and Lu Xiao. She could also see that something was going on between him and Zhenya. But since Ziling wanted to leave, Pei Si came over before Feng Wu could say anything and told them, you better come with me. Mr. Luo wants to see you. Feng Wu knew that they had found out about the white lion elephants. To save herself from future trouble, she knew she had to offer an explanation, so she nodded and followed Pei Si. Her team followed her. Despite her conflicted feelings, Sun Jingyu followed her. Mr. Luo's face was livid, and the students couldn't believe their eyes. Sun Jingyu knew what had happened, but Feng Wu had told her to keep it to herself, so she pretended that she didn't know anything. Pei Si asked her, Jingyu, what happened? Sun Jingyu gave her a strange look. What do you mean? You don't think that I killed all those white lion elephants, do you? Pei Si rolled her eyes at her. Dream on. Mr. Luo said, there are over 1,000 white lion elephants here, and their heads have all exploded. Even I couldn't do it, let alone you. Sun Jingyu asked, Mr. Luo, even you couldn't do it? Mr. Luo nodded. I don't think even Mr. Zhu could do it. Class E had one chief tutor and numerous assistant tutors. Mr. Zhu was the chief tutor and Mr. Luo was one of the assistants. Sun Jingyu couldn't help but glance at Feng Wu. She thought very highly of Feng Wu now, but as it turned out, she still had no idea of her full potential. By the sound of it, she was even more capable than the chief tutor. Sun Jingyu wondered if Chief Qingluan, who had been hostile toward Feng Wu since day one, knew Feng Wu's real ability. Jingyu? Jingyu! Mu Qianqian tugged at Sun Jingyu's sleeve and woke her up from her reverie. Mr. Luo is talking to you, she whispered. She wondered what Sun Jingyu was thinking. Sun Jingyu looked at Mr. Luo in bewilderment. He had just asked her if she knew what happened. Not only did she know, she had also experienced it for herself. However, Feng Wu wouldn't let her talk about it. Sun Jingyu could only smile bitterly. I was too busy running for my life to notice anything else. Maybe you could ask Feng Wu. That was the person that could give the final answer. Mr. Luo narrowed his eyes. He could have asked Feng Wu, but he didn't. In fact, he hadn't glanced at Feng Wu since he arrived. He had deliberately ignored her. Therefore, he waved Sun Jingyu off. I'm sure some tutors saw that you were in danger, so they gave you a hand and walked off after that. Sun Jingyu remembered the rumor about the academy deliberately raising white lion elephants. Chapter 2561, Feng Wu's Fault, 1. Sun Jingyu thought, didn't the academy raise the white lion elephants so that the students could use them to train their fighting skills? Why would a tutor kill them all? That doesn't make sense. But since Mr. Luo had said so, the others believed him. Pei Si said to Sun Jingyu, be grateful to that tutor, or all of you would have been in great trouble. Sun Jingyu was speechless. Gu Xingyuan glanced at Feng Wu. He had his doubts and wondered if Feng Wu had killed the beasts. However, there were over 1,000 of them, so he decided that it couldn't have been her. She wasn't powerful enough. Pei Si sounded sorry when she said, the white lion elephants have been wiped out, so the event has to end here. By the way, how many crystal cores do you have? She looked curiously at Sun Jingyu. Sun Jingyu glanced at her. How many do you have? Pei Si chuckled. We've collected 150 already. How about you? Sun Jingyu shrugged. I'm not in charge of the crystal cores. By that, she meant that she had no idea how many crystal cores Feng Wu had collected. Pei Si thought that Sun Jingyu was being pretentious and became displeased. She looked at the dead white lion elephants. If the mysterious tutor killed them, the crystal cores should still be there. Excited, she ran to the beasts to check their heads. However, the crystal cores were all gone. Where are the crystal cores? She stared at Sun Jingyu. Chaoga said mockingly, where do you think? Pei Si asked, you didn't take them all, did you? Chaoga crossed her arms. It's none of your business. Pei Si was furious and said sarcastically, you're just a new student, so behave like one. Jingyu, aren't you going to do something about it? Do something about it? Sun Jingyu thought, I'm the second weakest person in this team. Who am I to discipline Duan Chaoga? She'll probably discipline me first. In the end, they went back to the academy because there were no more white lion elephants around. Everyone was talking about it when they got back. This was the first time that students had to come back early because they didn't have anything to hunt. The students of Class E were avidly discussing it in the square. I heard that some mysterious tutor gave them a hand and killed all the white lion elephants. You mean Jingyu's team? They're all experienced students. Why would they be in such danger? Jingyu and Mu Qianqian wouldn't have put themselves in danger, but have you forgotten who else is in that team? Do you mean Feng Wu? The one that Chief Qingluan tried to pick? That's right. She's useless, but she's so arrogant. Someone like that is bound to create trouble. According to Mu Qianqian, Feng Wu was the one who lured in the white lion elephants. Feng Wu is so pretty, and I almost became her fan. I didn't know she was that type of person. If it wasn't for her, the mission wouldn't have ended earlier than expected. That's right. I was going to make great use of this opportunity. I even bought some potions for this event. Now that has all gone to waste. Many students of Class E held a grudge. They needed an outlet, and Feng Wu became their target. Chapter 2562, Feng Wu's Fault 2. Sun Jingyu didn't know what to say when she heard all the discussion. How idiotic were they? Did they really believe that Feng Wu was useless and that she had lured in the white lion elephants? If they knew that Feng Wu had killed 1,000 white lion elephants with one strike, they would be shivering inside out, just like her. However, Sun Jingyu felt excited at the same time because she was the only one who knew how capable Feng Wu was. Her classmates were all idiots. Chaogan nearly lost control, but the thought of Feng Wu calmed her down. She looked around and remembered every person who said bad things about Feng Wu. Mr. Luo arrived shortly after that. He had asked around, but no tutor in the academy acknowledged that they had done such a thing, which perplexed him. However, he stuck to his conclusion when he talked to the students. A tutor did it. After that, the students were ranked by performance and were rewarded with points. All they needed to do was hand in the crystal cores. As for the best member in each team, every student's armband was scanned, and the system would decide who the best team member was. Even the tutors didn't have access to the data. The rankings of the teams were announced in reverse order. The 300th team was awarded first, and the first team last. Feng Wu was in Team 1. Gu Xingyuan was in Team 2. Zhenya and Lu Zhao's team was Team 50. The team leader handed in their crystal cores, and the rankings were displayed on the big screen. The first team was Team 1, and the team leader was Sun Jingyu. The second team was Team 2, and the team leader was Pei Si. The 100th team was Team 50, and the team leader was Lu Xiao. The students were shocked. Team 1 is the top team. Weren't they in grave danger? How did they earn so many points? Jingyu is amazing. She and Mu Qianqian made that possible despite having 3 unhelpful teammates. You don't say. They would never have earned so many points if they didn't have Jingyu with them. I wish I had her in my team. I heard that they were very lucky. The tutor left without taking the crystal cores, so they picked up everything. Gosh, how can anyone be so lucky? I'm so envious. I thought Pei Si's team would be the best one. After all, they have Pei Si, the second best student in our class, and there's Gu Xingyuan as well. I heard that he's already a level 6 spiritual lord. Seriously? Most of the students in our class are level 3 spiritual lords. That's so impressive. I think he'll be the next top student in our class. They were still discussing the possibilities when the names of the best team members were displayed next to their teams. Team 1, Feng Wu. The students were all dumbfounded. Feng Wu? How's that possible? How can it be her? Why isn't it Sun Jingyu? Didn't you say that Jingyu and Mu Qianqian saved the team together? Why is Feng Wu the best team member? Chapter 2563, Black Crow. That's right. Didn't Feng Wu put the team in danger? I thought she was useless. Why is she the best teammate? Wasn't that self-contradictory? The others looked at one another and were confused. That didn't make any sense. Mr. Luo, is there something wrong with the system? Pei Si asked. Everyone nodded and looked at him expectantly. Something had to be wrong. It couldn't be Feng Wu. Mr. Luo wished that was the case. However, there's nothing wrong with the system, Mr. Luo said calmly. If that was the case, that meant that Feng Wu had received that title because she deserved the reward. Zhenya suddenly asked, is it because Feng Wu picked up the most crystal cores? Could that be the case? Everyone's eyes lit up. Pei Si raised her hand. Sir, does the system rank us based on how many crystal cores are handed in? No one knew what the standards were. Mr. Luo said, there's no question about the accuracy of the rankings. The students weren't satisfied with the answer, but they found ways to convince themselves. That must be the case. Feng Wu picked up the most crystal cores and became the best team member. She's shameless. I agree with you. She was the one who lured in all the white lion elephants, but after the tutor saved them, the first thing she did was to gather the crystal cores. I can't believe it. I feel so sorry for Jingyu. She was the leader of the team, but Feng Wu became the best team member. That's outright betrayal. Sun Jingyu couldn't stand them anymore. She glared at them and shouted, "You don't know what you're talking about. Feng Wu deserves to have all the crystal cores. No one is more qualified than she is." All the students were surprised. They never expected their class president to be on Feng Wu's side. They gave Feng Wu strange looks. Zhenya mumbled, "Jingyu is such a nice person. She was robbed of the honor, but she's trying to defend Feng Wu. She's the best class president." The others agreed with her and admired Sun Jingyu for what she said. They only despised Feng Wu even more. Sun Jingyu wanted to cry. She wished these people would stop talking. "Shut up, all of you. That's the end of the discussion. If anyone says anything, they'll be banned from our next event." Sun Jingyu had to shut them up. As the class president, she had the right to ban her classmates from attending the events. But she couldn't stop them from discussing it. What she did only made the rumors spread further. The students scattered after the points were distributed, and they gathered in twos and threes as everyone talked about today's events in low voices. They even gave Feng Wu a nickname, Black Crow. The name indicated how much misfortune Feng Wu represented. Chaoga was furious. But nothing she did could stop these people from talking. In room 2001, Chaoga grabbed a cleaver. "I'm so mad. I can't stand them." Chapter 2564, I don't want to talk to you. Chaoga said, "Xiao Wu, let go of me. I'm gonna kill them. They're so vicious. Are they majoring in professional quarreling?" Feng Wu chuckled. Chaoga stared at Feng Wu in disbelief. "How can you laugh? They're slandering you. They're calling you Black Crow." Ziling also found Feng Wu incredible. How tough did her mind have to be for her to remain unaffected? Feng Wu laughed. "Black Crow? I kinda like it." Chaoga didn't understand how anyone could like such a name and didn't know what to say. Feng Wu shrugged. "Someone once told me that I should be able to withstand as much slander as the praise I receive. Plus, that can hardly be called slandering." Chaoga still couldn't understand her. She had been criticized all her life. She would lose her temper when other people said bad things about her and would rejoice when they complimented her. Feng Wu, on the other hand, seemed to be able to anticipate everything and could take criticism much better. Feng Wu said, "They're I'll teach them a lesson next time. Happy?" Chaoga asked, "Are you training me in patience now?" Feng Wu shrugged. It seemed that Chaoga had guessed the answer this time. Something occurred to Chaoga. "You didn't tell Sun Jingyu to tell the truth. You stopped her on purpose. You wanted those people to think that you have no talent because you want to use this chance to make me more patient, is that it?" Feng Wu smiled at her. Chaoga said grumpily, "I don't want to talk to you anymore." She walked away to sulk in a corner. Meanwhile, Sun Jingyu was in her room. After she calmed down, she couldn't stop thinking about how Feng Wu had killed 1,000 white lion elephants with one strike. That was amazing. She was lost in thought. It had never occurred to her that she would genuinely admire Feng Wu for her talent. She almost wished that she could become Feng Wu's minion. Mu Qianqian and Sun Jingyu lived in the same dormitory, and the former wouldn't stop talking. "Feng Wu is so annoying. I didn't expect her to become the best team member. Apart from the honor, she also earned 100 points. Jingyu, what are we going to do about Feng Wu? You spoke up for her, which was such a brilliant move. Everyone finds you such a generous person now. That was so clever." Jingyu? Seeing that Sun Jingyu was deep in thought, Mu Qianqian gave her a nudge. Sun Jingyu said, "What? What did you say?" Mu Qianqian repeated what she said. Sun Jingyu gave her a contemptuous look. It made Mu Qianqian uneasy. She wondered if she had said something wrong. Sun Jingyu pointed at her. "You're such an idiot." Mu Qianqian said, "What?" Sun Jingyu was interrupted by a knock at the door. Mu Qianqian went to answer it. It was Wang Junwen, a student of Class D. She didn't like Feng Wu either. She didn't ask Mu Qianqian to leave and questioned Sun Jingyu straight away. "Did you forget your task? Didn't you promise me that you would finish off Feng Wu? What the hell?" Chapter 2565, Untitled. Wang Junwen glared at Sun Jingyu. Yes, she was the one who had given Sun Jingyu the mission to kill Feng Wu, and Sun Jingyu had failed. Sun Jingyu shrugged. "I couldn't do it." Wang Junwen didn't expect her to be so straightforward. She frowned. "I can understand that you failed once, but you can always try again." Of course, Sun Jingyu didn't dare try again. She raised her voice. "I'm not doing it." Wang Junwen gave Sun Jingyu a strange look. "What's that supposed to mean?" Mu Qianqian was surprised as well. Sun Jingyu had spent a lot to kill Feng Wu, including on all the explosive balls. Didn't she want to make it worth her while? Sun Jingyu looked alarmed and said solemnly, "Junwen, I hope you can understand something." Wang Junwen said, "Go ahead." Sun Jingyu said, "I can't reveal too much, but I have to remind you, Feng Wu isn't someone we can touch. You better give up that idea." Wang Junwen didn't think much of her warning and only gave her a cold glance. "You've made up your mind, then?" Sun Jingyu nodded. "Yes, and I hope you'll keep your promise. This stays between us." Wang Junwen frowned. She wasn't ready to give up. "What if I double the reward?" Sun Jingyu said, "I don't have a death wish." She didn't have a death wish. Wang Junwen smirked. "Fine. Sun Jingyu, that's your final answer. You know, plenty of people out there will jump at the opportunity." She then stormed off. Junwen? Mu Qianqian ran after Wang Junwen, but the latter soon disappeared down the corridor. Mu Qianqian came back and said to Sun Jingyu in resignation, "Jingyu, you shouldn't have offended Junwen. She's from Class D." The 5 classes were of 5 different levels. To students of Class D, students of Class E were so weak that they could bully them however they wanted. To Class E, students of Class D were too powerful for them to mess with. Sun Jingyu stared at Mu Qianqian. "Do you know who killed those white lion elephants?" Mu Qianqian asked, "Who?" Sun Jingyu glanced at her. "Who do you think?" Mu Qianqian was perplexed. Wasn't it a mysterious tutor? Sun Jingyu smiled. Mu Qianqian tilted her head. "Could it be Duan Chaoga?" "No, she's only slightly better than me. She couldn't have done it. It couldn't have been Ziling either. So, OMG." Mu Qianqian covered her mouth. "No, it couldn't have been her." "Feng Wu? Was it really her?" "Yes." Sun Jingyu was pleased to see the astonished look on Mu Qianqian's face. Unlike Mu Qianqian, she had seen it with her own eyes. Mu Qianqian said, "How's that possible? There were over 1,000 white lion elephants. Are you sure?" Sun Jingyu grabbed her bucket to get some water and said casually before she left, "I saw it with my own eyes." Mu Qianqian looked like she had been struck by lightning. Was Feng Wu even human? Chapter 2566, Untitled. Mu Qianqian had hung out with Sun Jingyu long enough to know her well. There was no need for Sun Jingyu to lie about it. Moreover, she had turned down Wang Junwen so decisively. What about Junwen? Meanwhile, Feng Wu was calculating her points. Before the event, she had just 10 points left. Their team won first place, so each team member was given 100 points. Being the MVP, she earned an extra 100 points. Therefore, she had 210 points. Chaoga had 110 points. Feng Wu took Chaoga and Ziling to the school canteen. According to Ziling, All the ingredients used in the dishes in the canteen came from magical beasts of the Thousand-Night Forest. Having a meal there increased one's spiritual essence a little, and was beneficial to one's cultivation. The canteen was divided into two sections, ready-to-eat and stir-fry. Ready-to-eat dishes were already cooked, and one only had to line up to put the food on their tray. However, it was common knowledge that these types of dishes weren't the best in terms of quality. Stir-fry dishes were different because one could order them with specific ingredients. Such dishes ensured that the spiritual essence in the ingredients could be retained at the highest level. Ziling led Feng Wu and Chaoge to the queue and suggested, "Shall we have 4 dishes? We came in first. We must celebrate." 4 dishes were considered a celebration? Chaoge asked curiously, "What do you usually eat, then?" Ziling said, "Vegetables poured over rice. It's quite tasty." Chaoge was speechless. She went to the front of the line to take a look at the ready-to-eat dishes, and when she came back, she said, "They don't look that tasty to me. Plus, they've been sitting there for so long that there's hardly any spiritual essence left." Ziling said, "But it's good enough for us. We can't afford the stir-fry dishes." Chaoge said, "I see that with the ready-to-eat dishes, meat dishes cost 5 points, vegetable dishes 3 points, and rice 1 point. Ziling nodded. "It's so expensive, and many of us can't afford them. We can only order 1 portion of rice and wash it down with the free soup. That's the only way we can sustain ourselves." Chaoge asked, "Why are you so broke?" "Xiao Wu and I only just got here, and we already have over 100 points. Ziling looked at her in resignation. "That's because our team was first, and only the top team can earn 100 points. The lower the ranking, the fewer points a team will earn. Teams ranked below 200 can't earn any points at all. That's how difficult it is to earn points. I'm the lucky one. I joined your team and earned the extra points. You guys stay in the line. I'll get us some soup." Ziling was going to fetch the free soup. "Isn't it Ziling? What a coincidence. Are you here for the free soup again?" It was Zhenya's voice. Zhenya was Lu Zhao's current girlfriend, and she had never tried to hide her resentment toward Ziling. Ziling's cheeks flushed with anger. She turned around and ignored Zhenya. But Zhenya didn't walk away. She was the type of girl who always clung to her boyfriend. She looked at Ziling, Feng Wu, and Chaoge with contempt. Lu Xiao had always felt guilty about leaving Ziling, so he lowered his voice and asked, "Ziling, why don't you join us?" Hearing that, Zhenya glared at Ziling. Ziling had an indescribable look in her eyes when she shook her head at him. "That won't be necessary. Please leave." Chapter 2567, Untitled. Ziling went back to her team and wouldn't look at Lu Xiao again. Zhenya let Lu Xiao go back to their table first. After he left, she went to Ziling's side with a smirk on her face and raised her hand. Thump. She slapped Ziling in the face. The sound attracted much attention. Feng Wu and Chaoge looked at each other, and both were infuriated. Zhenya had no idea that she had offended Feng Wu. She only stared at Ziling and said harshly, "Ziling, I'm warning you. Lu Xiao is my boyfriend now. If you seduce him again, you'll get more than a slap to the face." She was ready to leave after that. But Chaoge stopped her. Zhenya glared at her. "Be a good dog and get out of my way." Right? "A good dog shouldn't get in the way. That makes you a bad dog." Chaoge then slapped Zhenya with much force. Smack. It was such a crisp sound. Chaoge had used much more force than when Zhenya slapped Ziling. As a result, Zhenya flew backward. Both her feet left the ground. Zhenya stared at Chaoge in disbelief. Chaoge had hit her. She was the daughter of the famous Zhen family, and that girl had slapped her. Zhenya was dumbfounded. All eyes were on Chaoge. The new student was bold enough to mess with the daughter of the Zhen family. A new student? Chaoge was a new student, and she was capable of striking Zhenya so hard that she was sent flying. Did that mean that she was more capable than Zhenya? Just then, Lu Xiao ran back from their table. He squeezed through the crowd and rushed to his girlfriend's side. "Zhenya, are you all right?" Zhenya burst into tears when she saw Lu Xiao, as if she had suffered the greatest injustice. Ziling told her friend to hit me. Zhenya's tears won her a lot of sympathy, and the mark on her face also proved that she had been hit hard. Lu Xiao glared at Ziling with eyes burning with fury. He shouted, "Ziling, if you hate me, do whatever you want to me. Why did you hurt Zhenya? I'm so disappointed in you." He picked Zhenya up and carried her toward the infirmary. "If anything happens to Zhenya, I'll make you pay." That was all Lu Xiao said. Feng Wu could see that Ziling was so angry that her legs almost gave out. She had clenched her fists and gritted her teeth. Feng Wu also saw that Ziling was clutching her hands so tightly that her nails dug into her palms. Blood oozed out. What kind of hatred was that? Had someone threatened her, forcing her to endure this humiliation? Feng Wu shook her head. "Let's go back." They went back to room 2001. Yi Han hadn't shown her face ever since Feng Wu defeated her. As a result, there were only 3 people in the dormitory. Chaoga closed the door and asked Ziling, what on earth was that about? Ziling bit her lower lip, trying to force back her tears. Chaoga grew impatient. "What's going on? Why is that Zhenya targeting you, and what's that Lu Xiao's problem? Why did he blame you? Just tell me." Feng Wu frowned. She could roughly guess what had happened, but it concerned Ziling's privacy. If she didn't want to say anything, Feng Wu didn't want to force her either. She only patted Ziling on the shoulder. "It's okay to feel wronged. What's worse is when you're wronged and can't vent your frustration." Chapter 2569, Untitled. Ziling smirked. "I went to see Mr. Zhu about it, but he told me there was nothing he could do and sent me away." Chaoga said, "I can't believe it. What happened after that?" Ziling smiled bitterly. "Zhenya has been mocking me whenever she sees me and targets me every chance she gets. She becomes alarmed when she thinks I'm too close to Lu Xiao. That's why I've been trying to avoid them, but I can't stay unnoticed sometimes because Lu Xiao greets me all the time." She snorted. "I wish he'd never talk to me again since it always brings me trouble." Ziling turned to Chaoga and said apologetically, "I wouldn't have reacted like this if I were on my own, but I dragged the 2 of you into it. I really don't know what to do." Chaoga didn't feel that she should feel bad about hitting Zhenya, but she had indeed caused Feng Wu trouble again. "Xiao Wu," Chaoga went to Feng Wu's side, lowered her head, and asked gingerly, "I shouldn't have done that, right? Have I caused you trouble again?" Feng Wu said sternly, "Are you only aware of that now?" Chaoga was lost for words. Feng Wu said, "If you could choose, would you do it again?" Chaoga gritted her teeth and hesitated, but she still gave an honest answer. She nodded. "Although it's not right, given the choice, I would do it again. Xiao Wu, I'm sorry, but I can't become the good student you want me to be." She burst into tears in the end. She had a feeling that Feng Wu would give up on her. Feng Wu chuckled. Chaoga was confused. Feng Wu said in resignation, "You did the right thing." Chaoga was shocked. "What?" Feng Wu said, "I said, you did the right thing. Do you really take me for a coward? Am I someone who would compromise?" Chaoga said, "What do you mean?" Feng Wu said, "I'll tell you the same thing that I told Ziling." Chaoga tried to recall what Feng Wu said earlier. Feng Wu said, "We all need to preserve our will and spirit. Without them, we're no different from fish. If someone insults you, insult them with worse things. If they hit you, hit them back right away. If you can't beat them, run away. Get stronger and then fight them again. Who told you that you have to swallow your grievances? Do you not understand why I scolded you before?" Chaoga said, "Xiao Wu." Feng Wu waved her off. "You need to figure it out on your own. Until then, don't come to see me again." Chaoga was almost in tears and turned to Ziling for help. Ziling was as dumbfounded as she was. Feng Wu left the dormitory and walked around the academy. She spent some points and listened to a few classes. After attending a lesson on cultivation theory, she worked out the average level of the other students here. She had learned under her beautiful master, and was good enough to be a teacher here. She didn't need the theory class anymore. She enjoyed the course about surviving in the Thousand-Night Forest. She hadn't handed in all the crystal cores. She only handed in 165 and had kept the rest for later use. Chapter 2570, Untitled. She then went to the cultivation rooms. It was an interesting place. The 5 types of cultivation rooms each corresponded to metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. There were also rooms for auxiliary elements such as ice, frost, and thunder. Feng Wu made some inquiries and was told that students of Class E could only use Grade E rooms. She then chose the Grade E fire room. She entered it and used the crystal cores for her cultivation. She noticed in surprise that her cultivation had doubled. When she used all the crystal cores that she had brought with her, the percentage rose to 8%. She needed 100% to become a real spiritual king. When she left the room, she was told that she had spent a small fortune. 100 points? She looked at the teacher in surprise. It was a middle-aged female teacher. Her face was expressionless, and her eyes were cold. She didn't look very friendly. She glanced at Feng Wu and said lightly, 10 points an hour. You've used 10 hours. Feng Wu frowned. She felt that the teacher was targeting her. She didn't think that she had met the teacher before. If you can't afford it, don't come again. The teacher glanced at Feng Wu and said to the student behind her, next. There was a line behind Feng Wu, and the students were all whispering. Zhuo Qingwan had targeted Feng Wu from the very beginning. As a result, other students didn't fear Feng Wu either. They even dared to discuss her in front of her. Who's she? Zhen is usually very nice. That's Feng Wu, the one Chief Qingwan tried to pick in front of everyone. I see. That's Feng Wu. By the looks of it, she's offended Ms. Zhen. Then she'll have a very hard time ahead of her. Cultivation rooms are the places we need most. Zhen glanced at Feng Wu. Why are you still here? Feng Wu smiled. I'll use another 10 hours. Zhen was surprised. Are you going to use up your points? Feng Wu asked. Do you know me? Why do you know how many points I have? Zhen didn't answer and only stared at Feng Wu. Feng Wu asked, can't I do that? Zhen smirked. Get back in line. She wanted to give Feng Wu trouble. Feng Wu glanced at her and walked toward the cultivation room. Stop right there. Zhen felt humiliated and glared at Feng Wu. Do you think you can go in just like that? Get back in line. Feng Wu ignored her again. Stop. Infuriated, Miss. Zhen tried to grab Feng Wu's shoulder. The moment her fingers touched Feng Wu grabbed her arm and threw her over her shoulder. Thump. There was a loud noise. Everyone was shocked. They had never imagined that they would witness such a thing one day. A mere student had thrown a teacher over her shoulder. The teacher was Ms. Zhen, Mr. Zhu's wife. That's Ms. Zhen. She's Zhenya's mother. Chapter 2571, Untitled. How dare Feng Wu do such a thing? But we all know how capable Ms. Zhen is. Why was Feng Wu able to throw her over her shoulder? Everyone was dumbfounded. Wasn't Feng Wu supposed to be useless? How could she injure Ms. Zhen? Zhen was at a loss as well. It had never occurred to her that she would be humiliated this way. She had been defeated by a student. Driven by shame, she jumped up, bent her fingers so that her hands looked like claws, and aimed at Feng Wu's eyes. Feng Wu grabbed one of her hands. With a crack, she crushed Ms. Zhen's hand in her palm. Ah! Ms. Zhen screamed in pain. The students watched in astonishment. They thought that they had seen enough shocking things, but they were wrong. Feng Wu is. Oh my God! Ms. Zhen is. Ms. Zhen stared at Feng Wu with eyes that burned with hatred. Feng Wu said, "Get out of my way." Ms. Zhen hated Feng Wu, but she didn't dare offend her again. Because Feng Wu could crush her like she was stomping on an ant. She wasn't Feng Wu's match at all. Overwhelmed by the humiliation, Ms. Zhen moved aside, and Feng Wu marched into the fire room while everyone watched. The students were shocked once more. There were around a dozen students, and they all sucked in their breaths in unison. Zhen Ya's friends had slipped away to look for her. They couldn't find her, but they found Mr. Zhu instead. Feng Wu was cultivating when Mr. Zhu arrived. She realized that when she didn't have any crystal cores, her cultivation speed was greatly reduced. It seemed that she needed to earn more crystal cores and points. Just then she heard footsteps outside. The students turned around and saw that it was Mr. Zhu. Their first thought was that Feng Wu was going to die. Holding her right arm, Miss Zhen greeted him. There was pain in her voice, but her eyes spat fire. Husband, Ms. Zhen gritted her teeth. Apparently Mr. Zhu had been informed of what happened. He examined Ms. Zhen's wound and was slightly relieved when he saw that it wasn't too serious. Where's that student? His face was livid. She's cultivating inside. Ms. Zhen pointed at the cultivation room. She was so furious that her eyes looked like they were spitting fire. The injury hurt, but she was more furious because she had been beaten by a student in front of other students. The humiliation almost drove her crazy. Mr. Zhu nodded and headed for the cultivation room. At that moment, four people arrived. They were Zhenya, Lu Xiao, Sun Jingyu, and Mu Qianqian. They all heard the conversation between the couple. Zhenya held her mother and shook with rage. Lu Xiao tried to comfort her. The students all murmured to one another and expressed how sorry they felt for Zhenya. They were convinced that Feng Wu was going to die, was she? Sun Jingyu didn't think so. Mu Qianqian tugged at Sun Jingyu's sleeve and whispered, "Are we on the wrong side?" Sun Jingyu only rolled her eyes at Mu Qianqian. Chapter 2572, Untitled. Mu Qianqian anxiously dropped her voice so that no one else could hear her. Jingyu, I'm not joking. Feng Wu attacked Ms. Zhen. What do you think Mr. Zhu will do to her? Listen. They all think that she's going to die. Sun Jingyu glanced at Ms. Zhen's right hand and said casually, just because they all think that way doesn't mean that they're right. They're only repeating each other's words. Mu Qianqian stomped her foot. But Mr. Zhu is the most capable tutor of our class. Sun Jingyu thought, so what? I bet he can't kill 1,000 white lion elephants with one strike. Her legs still trembled whenever she recalled that scene. It chilled her to the bone. Mu Qianqian was trying to figure out how not to be incriminated by Feng Wu. Meanwhile Mr. Zhu had arrived outside the fire room. He tried to push the door open. But it wasn't as easy as he expected. The door wouldn't open. He frowned, stepped back, and checked the sign in the top right corner of the door. Grade E, Fire Cultivation Room 1. It was the right place. He grabbed the door handle and pushed harder. He used 80% of his maximum strength and was confident that the door would open without resistance. He was wrong. The door still wouldn't budge. Mr. Zhu was concerned now. When he exerted his full power, he realized in surprise that he still couldn't open the door. He was astonished. He knew that this was a competition between his and Feng Wu's cultivation levels. What kind of student could keep him out? Dozens of students had gathered around, and they looked expectantly at Mr. Zhu. Thump. Infuriated, Mr. Zhu raised a leg. He kicked the door open with a loud thump. This time, he finally could enter the room. How do you think Mr. Zhu will punish Feng Wu? She disrespected her teachers. They'll expel her, won't they? Zhenya smirked. My dad is going to kill her. Ms. Zhen gave her a stern look. What a stupid girl. She couldn't say such things out loud. While everyone else believed that Feng Wu was going to be punished, Sun Jingyu shook her head. From what she knew of Feng Wu, she believed that things wouldn't turn out the way these people expected. Feng Wu would prove them all wrong. Chaogan Ziling got wind of the news and arrived at that moment. Zhenya was furious when she saw Ziling. Zhen stopped her and said coldly, "Don't create more trouble now." Zhenya had to fight back her rage. In the fire room, Feng Wu sat cross-legged on the floor and Mr. Zhu was kneeling in front of her. She said, "Get out of my sight now." Mr. Zhu scrambled to his feet. All his wounds were hidden by his clothes, and other people couldn't tell that he had been hurt. He wanted to leave the room. Feng Wu said sarcastically, "You'll have to leave something behind." Mr. Zhu glared at her before he looked down at his hands. "Which hand should he chop off?" Feng Wu chuckled. "The right one then. It's more valuable." Mr. Zhu glared at her. He had never imagined that something like this would happen to him. Chapter 2573, An Incredible Student, 1. Feng Wu smiled at Mr. Zhu. Mr. Zhu glared at her in frustration. It had never occurred to him that there would be such an incredible student in his class. He had been confident when he came in, thinking that he would teach the student a good lesson. He had never imagined that it was possible he would lose. Not only that, he also realized in astonishment that he couldn't withstand a single strike. Not a single one. He was the class tutor, but he was easily defeated by one of his students. For an instant, he wished that the ground could open up so that he could hide inside. Feng Wu smiled at him. "Have you decided?" Mr. Zhu was a decisive man who kept his word. He grabbed his sword and struck down at his right arm. Before he could make contact, he was struck by an invisible force. The sword flew out of his hand and landed in the wall behind him. It was buried all the way to the hilt. Mr. Zhu's face paled. The walls of the cultivation room were made of a special material. Ordinary people couldn't leave any mark on it, let alone stick a sword into it. Even he couldn't do it. Feng Wu had only entered the academy for 2 days, and she could already plunge a sword into the wall. Exactly how capable was she? "Why?" Mr. Zhu stared at Feng Wu. "Why did you stop me?" Feng Wu smiled. "I don't think it's worth the trouble." Mr. Zhu said, "What?" Feng Wu said, "Why do I need your right hand? I can't eat it." Mr. Zhu was speechless. Feng Wu smiled at him. "Why don't you name a price? How much do you think your right arm is worth? Convert it into points and give them to me." Mr. Zhu was astonished. "Are you sure you don't want me to?" He was so agitated that he couldn't finish his sentence. Feng Wu waved him off and got straight to the point. "I think you know that being a new student, I'm always in need of more points." Mr. Zhu asked, "Aren't you afraid that I won't keep my promise?" Feng Wu smiled a little and glanced at his right arm. She said teasingly, "I can take that hand whenever I want." That was an outright threat. Mr. Zhu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She was such a unique student. He realized that a genius like Feng Wu couldn't stay in Class E for long. She would soon rise in glory. "How many points do you need?" he asked in resignation. Feng Wu said, "I want to have unlimited access to the cultivation room. How about that?" Mr. Zhu shook his head. "That's not possible." Feng Wu asked him why. Mr. Zhu smiled bitterly. "My authority only applies to Class E." Feng Wu said, "In that case, give me unlimited access to this cultivation room while I'm in Class E." Mr. Zhu shook his head again. "I can't do that." Feng Wu frowned. She felt that she had made enough compromises. Mr. Zhu shook his head. "I'm not as powerful as you think. Even I have to pay with my points to use the cultivation room." Feng Wu asked, "Seriously?" Mr. Zhu nodded. "The school has various rules to prevent the devaluation of points. This is one of them." Chapter 2574, An Incredible Student, 2. Feng Wu said, "If that's the case, Mr. Zhu, I think I'm going to take that right arm now." Mr. Zhu was alarmed. The girl might seem harmless, but she was anything but. "There are ways to get around that, Mr. Zhu said hurriedly. "The maximum amount of points a Class E student can get in a transaction is 1,000 points, and that's what I'll give you." Feng Wu frowned and shook her head. "That's too little." Mr. Zhu felt the same, but that was the school rule. What else could he do? The maximum transaction amount really is 1,000, regardless of whether it's between students or students and teachers. Also, it can only be done for the same person once a month, Mr. Zhu said solemnly. It seemed he was telling the truth. Fengwu said, I want 3,000 points. Compared with 3,000 points, Mr. Zhu obviously valued his arm more. Mr. Zhu didn't hesitate to nod. Of course. Fengwu said, would you please call Chaoge and Ziling in then? Mr. Zhu looked at her in resignation. He wondered why she wouldn't trust him. She had to make sure that he transferred the points right now. However, he wasn't in a position to make requests, so he opened the door and said, Duan Chaoge, Ziling, please come in for a moment. The students outside had no idea what was happening in the room. They jumped when Mr. Zhu called out the names. But they soon saw what was going on. Duan Chaoge and Ziling are both Fengwu's friends. Why does Mr. Zhu want them to go in? Oh my god. Did Mr. Zhu kill Fengwu? Does he need them to collect the body? Despite their astonishment, they all discussed the matter with flickering eyes. Jinya was pleased. She and her mother looked at each other, and both smiled in satisfaction. Mu Qianxian grew anxious. She grabbed Sun Jingyu's hand and said agitatedly, Jingyu. She also believed that Mr. Zhu had beaten Fengwu to death. Sun Jingyu's face remained emotionless, but she grew doubtful as well. Had she made the wrong choice? She wondered if she really had seen Fengwu's formidable strike. Chaoge and Ziling were both concerned about Fengwu. When they heard Mr. Zhu, they ran into the room as fast as they could. They heard all the discussion around them. Was Fengwu really dead? Gosh! They were shocked by what they saw. Fengwu sat calmly on the floor with her legs crossed, and there was a cheerful look in her bright eyes. She seemed to be in control of the situation. Mr. Zhu was standing next to her, bowing slightly like a servant. He didn't dare to show any disrespect. Chaoge was speechless. Ziling didn't know what to say. What was going on? Switch on your armbands. Fengwu smiled at them. Both Chaoge and Ziling were dumbfounded. Chaoge was used to following Fengwu's orders, so she switched on her armband without asking questions. 1,000 points transferred, a robotic female voice announced. 1,000 points. Chaoge couldn't believe her ears. She looked at Fengwu in pleasant surprise. Xiaowu, what's going on? Chapter 2575. An Incredible Student, 3. Chaoge was indescribably excited. Fengwu didn't answer her and only looked at Ziling. Ziling wasn't blind. She saw Chaoge receive 1,000 points. She switched on her armband without further prompting. 1,000 points transferred. The same robotic female voice rang out again. Ziling was grateful and said to Mr. Zhu, thank you so much. She bowed as she spoke. Mr. Zhu's face was livid. He looked at Fengwu instead of Ziling. Fengwu nodded. You can go now. Mr. Zhu left without looking back. Ziling and Chaoge opened their eyes wide in disbelief as they watched Mr. Zhu leave. What was going on? Why did it feel like Fengwu was ordering Mr. Zhu around? Were they mistaken? Chaoge and Ziling turned around and looked at Fengwu in unison, both filled with wonder. Fengwu said, let's go. Chaoge wanted to ask something, but there were too many people around them, so she followed Fengwu without saying a word. Mr. Zhu quickly left the cultivation room. Many students were waiting outside. There had only been over a dozen of them at first, but when news got around, more students flooded in. Looking around, Mr. Zhu saw that the place was packed. There were at least hundreds of people. Mr. Zhu's face turned livid. Just then, Jinya, his daughter, ran excitedly toward him. She blinked, unable to contain her excitement. Father, did you teach Fengwu a lesson? I'll drag her out now. Mr. Zhu's face darkened even more. Drag her out? Why did she even think she could do that? Fearing that his ignorant daughter would offend Fengwu again, he immediately said, stop right there. He had never spoken so harshly before. Zhenya was dumbfounded. Mr. Zhu glared at her. Come with me. Now. He grabbed her arm and led her away from the crowd. But Zhenya wouldn't let him. She threw off his hand. I still have things to do. I'm not leaving. However, Mr. Zhu was worried that his daughter would upset Feng Wu, so he picked her up without hesitation and dragged her away. Zhen knew him well and was suspicious of his reaction. She felt that something wasn't right. But she had no idea what. The students had no idea what happened. They believed Zhenya and thought that Mr. Yu had taught Feng Wu a lesson. They expected to see Feng Wu lying on the floor, covered in blood. Mr. Zhu must have called Chaoge and Ziling inside so that they could carry Feng Wu out. Why haven't they carried Feng Wu out yet? Is she too severely injured? Could she have died at the scene? I don't think so. Mr. Zhu would have to take responsibility if that happens. I think she's badly wounded, that's all. Just then, the door to the cultivation room opened. There we go. The students outside couldn't wait to see who would come out. They were already displeased when Feng Wu turned down the opportunity to become Zhou Qinghuan's friend. And then... Chapter 2576, An Incredible Student 4. Then, they believed that Feng Wu became the best team member because she was lucky enough to join Sun Jingyu's team, which gave her 200 points. Everyone was jealous of her. Of course they wouldn't like Feng Wu. They were looking forward to seeing what happened to her. However, they were shocked when they saw Feng Wu come out. She didn't look injured at all. She didn't even have a scratch on her. She was as pretty as ever. Her skin was as smooth as porcelain, and there were no wrinkles in her dress. It was obvious that she hadn't been beaten up. Mr. Zhu looked more like he was the one who had been beaten up. Who? Everyone watched in surprise as Feng Wu walked out of the room with Ziling and Chaoge by her side. They left the room together. Zhen was so furious that her nails dug into her palms. Her eyes spat fire. She left without saying a word. She wasn't going to stop Feng Wu. Instead, she was going to ask Mr. Zhu what was going on. In room 2001, Chaoge and Ziling stared at Feng Wu in astonishment. Ziling couldn't believe her ears. Chaoge found it much easier to believe Feng Wu. After all, she had been Feng Wu's friend long enough to know that such things could happen. She cut to the chase. Xiaowu, you didn't beat up Mr. Zhu, did you? Ziling rolled her eyes at Chaoge. No, that's just ridiculous. Be reasonable. Feng Wu beat up Mr. Zhu. How could that happen? Feng Wu said, I did. Ziling's mouth fell open. Feng Wu said, I did just now. Ziling said, what did you do? Feng Wu said, he attacked me without saying a word. I parried his blow and sent him flying. That was it. She shrugged innocently. I didn't actually hit him. Chaoge was speechless. Ziling didn't know what to say. In the tutors' living quarters, the students could only live in the dormitories, whereas the teachers lived in villas. Mr. Zhu was the tutor of Class E and could only live in the outermost region. In the villa of the Zhus, Zhenya was yelling at her father. Why did you bring me home? Dad, do you know how important that was to me? Duan Chaoge and Ziling were going to carry Feng Wu out. You don't get to see that every day. Feng Wu has been so outrageous. She's only a new student, but she thinks of herself as some big deal. If one didn't know better, they would think that she's a Class D student already. I have to see Feng Wu at her worst. I'll be able to mock her for it from now on. Dad, you don't know anything. She threw off Mr. Zhu's hand and headed for the door. Stop right there. Mr. Zhu had never sounded so angry before. It frightened Zhenya. Her father had never spoken to her that way before. Mr. Zhu stared at Zhenya and stressed each word. I'll disown you if you offend Feng Wu again. He meant it. Intimidated, Zhenya cringed. When she realized what her father had said, she burst into tears. Her father had always doted on her, and she had never been treated this way before. Why are you saying that? Zhenya cried. I'd like to know the answer as well, someone said angrily from the doorway. Chapter 2577, Genius Student, 1. I'd like to know the answer as well, someone said angrily from the doorway. Mr. Zhu turned around and saw his wife charging into the room, her eyes shining brightly with fury. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Zhen walked up to her husband and looked him in the eye. Tell me why. She glared at Mr. Mr. Zhu looked from his wife to his daughter. He took a deep breath and slowly said, with everything that has happened, can't you see it? Feng Wu isn't useless by any standard. She's a genius. Zhenya smirked. Father, don't be ridiculous. Feng Wu is a genius? She might have been a genius once, but she lost her ability 5 years ago. Everyone knows that. She's completely crippled. Mr. Zhu said tauntingly, are you saying that your father was defeated by a cripple? Zhenya and Ms. Zhen's pupils contracted. They couldn't believe their ears. Father. Husband. Mr. Zhu took another deep breath. He breathed out, paused, and said, you heard me correctly. Feng Wu defeated me. Zhenya didn't know what to say. Mr. Zhu was speechless. The room was completely silent. It was as if the air had frozen. Mr. Zhu stared at Ms. Avoid Feng Wu as much as you can when she goes to the cultivation room. If you can't avoid her, avoid any confrontation. Ms. Zhen wanted to say something, but Mr. Zhu cut her off. Don't treat her like a common student. She's a genius. The most brilliant kind. And you, Mr. Zhu turned to his daughter. Don't offend Feng Wu ever again. Remember, she's a genius, and she has every right to be arrogant. If you don't get in her way, she won't do anything to you either. But if you don't listen to my advice and you offend her, you'll be responsible for the consequences. I won't have anything to do with it. He left after giving that warning. Zhen and Zhenya were completely at a loss. What was wrong with this world? How could Feng Wu be a genius? Meanwhile, in room 2001, Ling would check her 1,000 points from time to time and be as happy as a little mouse. Chowga said, Ling, stop giggling. You look silly. Ling said, you have no idea how hard it is to earn points. I've never had more than 100 points, but now I have 1,000. I want to show off to the entire school. Chowga said, try to keep a low profile. Ling said, but it's so hard. Xiao Wu is obviously a genius, but they're calling her useless. It makes me so mad. Chowga shrugged. Xiao Wu was humble that way, and there was nothing they could do. Ling asked, by the way, another event is coming up. Can I join your team again? Chowga said, of course you can. Chapter 2579, Genius Student, 3. Feng Wu glanced at Zhenya, and Zhenya looked back at her, seemingly pleased with herself. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. Why was she so pleased? Zhenya smirked inwardly. She had gone to Mr. Luo's house and complained to him in tears, making it sound like her mom had been through hell. She decided that if her father wouldn't do anything to Feng Wu, someone else would. The event was still taking place in Thousand Night Forest, and they were still going to hunt some magical beasts. Usually, these events were all about hunting white lion elephants, which had been annihilated by Feng Wu. After an emergency meeting, the tutors decided that the students would hunt nether wolf tigers this time. It was a magical beast with the head of a wolf and the body of a tiger. They were as powerful as tigers but as cunning as wolves, which made them very difficult to hunt. The points the students would receive stayed the same. So did the rules. Pei Si walked at the very front. She turned around and smiled at Feng Wu. Feng Wu, I heard that you were the one who killed all those white lion elephants last time. Chowga had let it slip when the others pushed her too hard. Feng Wu didn't stop her from telling others, nor was she deliberately hiding her capability. People just didn't believe her. Zhenya smirked. It seemed that Pei Si, the second-best student in Class E, didn't like Feng Wu either. What great news! Pei Si pondered. Wang Junwen had given her a mission with a reward of 500 points. It was rather straightforward. She needed to injure Feng Wu to the point that she needed to stay in bed for at least 3 months. Pei Si didn't find the task difficult. After all, she was the second-best student in Class E and should be able to overpower Feng Wu, the new student. The problem was how to make it look like an accident. After some consideration, Pei Si decided to use the nether wolf tigers. What she didn't know was that Sun Jingyu had tried something similar once and had failed miserably. Pei Si's ignorance gave her confidence. She smiled at Feng Wu when the first nether wolf tiger appeared. "Feng Wu, would you like to give it a go?" Feng Wu glanced at her and struck out without hesitation. She used her bare hands. With a thump, the nether wolf tiger was sent flying and made a muffled sound when its giant body hit the ground. Pei Si's eyes widened, and she stared at Feng Wu. That was fast. Chaoga and Ziling approached the nether wolf tiger when Feng Wu was done. They knew what to do. One opened the nether wolf tiger's head and removed the crystal core. The other skinned the beast. The whole process took less than 3 seconds. Pei Si was speechless. She tried to convince herself that she couldn't trust her eyes. Either that or the nether wolf tiger was too weak. Magical beasts were divided into different levels as well, and this one had to be one of the weaker ones. Sun Jingyu and her team were shadowing Feng Wu's team without getting too close. Through the gaps between branches, they saw how Feng Wu killed the nether wolf tiger with one strike. Sun Jingyu said to her teammates, "See? I told you Feng Wu was good." Gu Xingyuan's face darkened. "It was just one beast. You're tuning in to the Passion Page's YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."